Namaste, I'm JVWU Sapna Khelot, and my session is on the origin of the state, the social contract theory. So, now, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. Uh, the most famous exponents of the social contract theory was Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. Thomas Hobbes was an Englishman. He propounded his ideas in his Leviathan, which was published in 1651. John Locke, who was also an Englishman, he published his Two Treatises of Government in 1690. Rousseau developed a social contract theory in his Social Contract, which was published in 1762. Now, the substance of this theory is this. The substance of the theory, social contract theory, the state was created by man by means of a contract. यानी कि जैसे जो सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट थ्योरी है बिल्कुल ऑरिजिन और फोर्स से बिल्कुल अलग है. ये क्यों बना है? इट इज़ बिकॉज ऑफ सम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बाय एक अनुबंध से. There was time when there was no state and no man-made laws. Men lived in the state of nature and regulated their conduct on the basis of the law prescribed by nature. But there was no human agency to formulate and enforce the laws of nature. As men were confronted by some difficulties in the state of nature, they and after some time decided to abandon it. They entered into an agreement and created the state. How men lived in the state of nature? Why they decided to abandon that state? Who were the parties to contract? What were the terms of the contract? What sort of state emerged as a result of the contract? On these and similar questions, there are differences of opinion among Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, but they agree on the central idea that the state was created by man by the means of a contract. Like when it comes to the human nature or the state of nature or about or this contract, then we'll see. जैसे you can say कि according to Hobbes, man is selfish by nature. According to Locke, man is social by nature and is peace-loving. According to Rousseau, human nature is made by two elements, self-preservation and sympathy for others. According to Hobbes, the state of nature was a condition of war of everyone against everyone. According to Locke, it was a state of peace, goodwill and mutual assistance, but there was no human law and a human agency to enforce it. According to Rousseau, the state of nature was a condition of idyllic happiness, but quarrel arose because of the introduction of private property. In the contract of Hobbes, the individual surrendered all his right to the government, who got absolute power. In the contract of Locke, each individual agreed with every other to give up to the community his right of enforcing the laws of nature. The power of the community was limited. Locke supported limited monarchy. In the contract of Rousseau, the individuals surrendered all their rights to the community. Sovereignty was vested in the general will of the community, and the general will was absolute. The theory is untenable. So after all these things, now you can criticize in very short कि from the historical point of view, the theory is untenable. There is no historical record to prove that any state came into existence as a result of a contract. Primitive society was based on status and not contract. Historical researchers prove that progress of communities has been from status to contract. Next, the theory is illogical. Another thing is that from the sociological point of view, this theory is untenable. It is self-evident that man is a social animal by nature. Man never lived without society. The belief that man ever lived in the state of nature is totally unfounded. And the next is the theories of the human natures propounded by the exponent of the theory are not substantiated by modern psychological researchers. According to them, human nature is fixed, unmodifiable and universal, but modern psychology teaches us that man's nature is greatly conditioned by the social environment in which he lives. Man is neither selfish nor altruistic by nature. His mental and spiritual makeup is a product of the culture of his community. Whereas some of the exponents of the theory assume that in the state of nature all men were equal. This assumption is incorrect. In fact, inequality, not equality, is the law of nature. The exponent of the theory take it for granted that the descendants of those who originally entered into the contract would continue to be bound by it. The position is legally and morally indefensible. Even if an original contract could be discovered, it would be unjust to bind up to the descendants of the authors. The author is very dangerous in practice. Thus, you can say that this theory is very dangerous in practice at its lends support to anarchical tendencies. If the state and its institutions were to be regarded as a result of individuals, they would have no moral foundation. They would have no moral authority if they conflicted with the individual will. So after the criticism of this, we can say now we will discuss about the value of this theory. Response of this: in spite of its defects, the theory has some merits. Yes, it deals with the death blow of the doctrine of the divine rights of king, and thus tore away the moral foundation of monarchical absolutism. It lent powerful moral support to the doctrines of liberty, equality, and democracy. It brought out the idea that government is based not on the whims of the ruler but on the consent of the ruled. So you can say that this theory, however, fails miserably to explain the origin of the state.